Here we go. I've got 3 massive updates. Buckle in because today's headlines are absolutely wild. Wilfried Nancy pulling out the tactic board, Engels hanging onto his place by a thread, and the biggest bombshell of all, the exact price Celtic would need to finally land Louis Munteanu. And trust me, that last one changes everything. Stick with me right to the end. We have 6 news a day to keep you updated with the mighty Celtic. Hit that subscribe button and be part of it. Let me tell you something, because this one has had me shaking my head harder than a Rangers fan watching Celtic lift another trophy. This whole fuss about Wilfried Nancy pulling out a tactics board on the touchline, honestly, it's the most overblown drama I've seen since the Azuis were claiming the reign at Sucky Hall was the reason they bottled the league again. You've got folk acting like Nancy rolled up with some sort of magic spellbook, summoning formations from the clouds. But what actually happened? The man gathered a few players, pointed at a board, and tried to sort out a shape that wasn't quite clicking. That's called coaching. That's called doing your job. And after only 1 full training session with this squad, I'd call it necessary. The guy's barely even unpacked his suitcase, and he's already being judged like he's rewriting Jock Stein's gospel. And let's not pretend this is some wild, unheard of idea. Nancy's been doing this his whole career, even in massive games like the MLS Cup final against Los Angeles. Big stages, big pressure, same board. It's not a gimmick, it's a tool. Sometimes the pitch is roaring, instructions get lost, and seeing the shape on a board is the quickest way to make something stick. I'd rather have a manager trying to fix a problem in real time than one sitting frozen like a Rangers defender watching Deason sprint past them. Look, the back 3 didn't land. We all saw it. Hearts were sharper, more settled, and Celtic was still adjusting to a whole new way of playing. But seeing Nancy actively trying to adjust on the fly, that's the kind of energy you want from a manager who actually gives a damn. He wasn't standing there hoping the wind would push the ball into the net. He was involved, animated, committed. If anything, Celtic need more hands-on coaching right now, not less. This is a squad in transition. The ideas are fresh, the margins are thin. This is exactly the time when every tweak, every discussion, every visual cue matters. And if someone's credibility is under question, it's definitely not the guy bringing clarity with a tactics board. It's more likely the folk complaining about it who seem desperate to find a problem in a moment that was really just a manager trying to win a football match. But here's what I want to ask you, and I know this will stir a wee bit of a reaction. Do you think some of the criticism towards Nancy is really about the tactics board? Or are certain people so desperate for something to moan about that they'd complain even if he handed them a trophy polished and ready? Hit that subscribe button, lads. Let's get it. Loudy till we hit 1,500 mad Celtic dafts. Let's dig into this one because, honestly, Sunday's defeat already gave me a headache, and thinking about Arne Engels' performance is like pouring salt on it. You watched that match the same way I did, jaw clenched, heart pounding, and wondering how in the world one player managed to make everything look so difficult in the middle of the park. Folk were firing all sorts of criticism at Deason for his misses, and fair enough, he had a rough outing up top. But Engels somehow managed to outdo him in the frustration stakes. And let me tell you, that takes some doing inside paradise. The moment that still sticks with me is that header he planted straight into Schwolo's gloves from about 2 yards out. It was the kind of chance you score on a wet Tuesday down the park with your eyes closed. It wasn't just a miss, it was a complete release of momentum, the type that sucks the air out of you, the way the Azuis do every time they try to talk about European history. For a midfielder brought in for more than £11 million sterling, you expect composure, not panic. But the real problem wasn't the miss, it was everything else. The lad lost the ball 23 times. 23, that's not careless, that's catastrophic. It felt like every second touch was a pass, straight back to Hearts. Chris Sutton even called his balls forward wayward, which is Sutton being generous because some of those passes looked like he was actively trying to find a maroon shirt just to give us all stress? When a midfielder is supposed to be dictating play and instead spends 90 minutes gifting possession like it's Christmas in August, it puts the entire team under pressure. And that's where Nancy comes in. The managers had basically 1.5 training sessions before being chucked into the fire, landed with a back three that never settled, and he's trying to build a structure while still learning the names on the training bibs. The last thing he needs right now is a midfielder making the game harder. The Engels had 55 more touches than Dyson, yet created fewer chances. That's not just a bad match. That's a match that screams for a wee rest on the bench, reset, regroup, rethink, and if Nancy moves Dyson back into the attacking midfield slot, where he actually shines, pressing and linking up, it frees space for Nacho or Kenny to take the 9 role, and it lets Reo Hatate drop deeper, where he can actually bring control instead of chaos. Suddenly, the whole midfield looks more balanced. Engels isn't being written off, but he needs to breathe. Ramsey, Bernardo, Holm, Hatate, there are lads there hungry to impress, and Nancy needs to see what works in his system. Now, this period is about assessment, and Engels didn't help himself. But here's what's really rattling around my head. Do you honestly think Engels deserves another start immediately, Wanda, or would keeping him in the lineup send the message that performances simply don't matter at Celtic? Hit that subscribe button, lads. Let's G it loudly till we hit 1,500 mad Celtic daffs. Let's get into this one because the story around Louis Munteanu has finally taken the kind of twist that actually makes sense for Celtic. At long last, there's a real number on the table. For months, it felt like Cluj were pricing the lad as if he were the Romanian Erling Haaland, throwing figures close to £20 million sterling around like confetti on a wet afternoon down Sucky Hall. And meanwhile, you and I were sitting here wondering how on earth that was supposed to work when the boy hadn't even kicked a ball in Scotland yet. But now the picture's changed entirely. Cluj are skint, absolutely skint, the kind of financial trouble that makes even the Azuis look stable, and that's saying something because their accounts usually read like a tragicomedy. Munteanu wanted out in the summer. You remember that saga. The lad practically had one foot out the door, but the club dug their heels in and slapped that ludicrous price tag on him. Fast forward a few months and suddenly the chairman's out here saying 10 million euros, 8.7 million pounds sterling gets the deal done. And honestly, that's the first time this whole thing has sounded remotely realistic. Here's the bit that gets me. He's not even having a good season. 3 goals, 6 assists, 20 matches. That's not exactly the return of a man who's banging the door down, demanding a move to a club like Celtic. But form drops when a player's head is scrambled, and Munteanu's clearly been stuck in limbo. Last season, he scored 25. You don't fluke 25 goals. You do that because you've got something. Power, movement, a bit of swagger. And if Nancy wants a proper focal point, someone who actually plays like a striker rather than Dyson being sacrificed through the middle, then Munteanu suddenly makes real sense. And you know what else? It fixes the whole jigsaw. You bring Munteanu in, and Dyson goes straight back to that left side where he terrorizes defenders, not pretending to be a number 9, not being battered by centre halves, built like bridge pillars, actually doing what he's good at. Nancy's system needs balance, and at the moment, we look like a table with one leg shorter than the others. But here's the real question. 8.7 million pounds sterling is still a serious fee, the kind of money that demands you're absolutely sure you're not taking a punt at that price. You're betting your January window on one player. And given how shaky recruitment has been at times, that's where the nerves kick in. If Munteanu hits the ground running, brilliant, we've solved a major issue. If he doesn't, then it's another expensive lesson and more pressure on a club already dealing with enough fires. So let me throw this right at you, because it's the one thing buzzing around my head like a wasp in the Jock Steen stand. Do you genuinely believe spending almost £9 million sterling on Munteanu is ambition from the board? Or is it desperation dressed up as progress? Hit that subscribe button. Lads, let's get it loldy till we hit 1,500 mad Celtic dafts.